I think you stand up Hassan Reddick on the outside. This man had 23.5 sacks over the last 2 years. I think you stand him up on the outside and let him attack from a standing position to gain that advantage against that offensive tackle.
All right. Hey, little birds news, little bit, nothing major, but I like this. I think these things actually are a lot more productive. And Barrett, I'd be curious as a player if you went through these, what you think. But the Eagles are going to hold a joint practice with the Miami Dolphins ahead of the third preseason game. I think that's great. Where do you guys stand on that?
I do too. I think it's a necessity because you don't have the type of camps that you have those quality reps like you had when I was playing. Because camp was longer. I can remember we actually went to. I always say my first year up in Westchester, not even Lehigh, but in Westchester. The last time they had in Westchester, we had camp for 7. Well, the rookies had camp for 7 weeks. The veterans had it for 6 weeks. The rookies and selected veterans would get there a week early, and we would practice, have 2-a-days, just to prep us what football was going to be like in the NFL going forward into the season. And we were there. We did our conditioning test. We went through everything, and that's how we entered into camp, into the NFL. 2-a-days and everything before the veterans. Then the veterans got there. Then we had 6 weeks of camp after that.
Jeez, man!
So talking about your body being hardened, real 2-a-days. These were real 2-a-days. It wasn't like the 2-a-days they have. It's not even 2-a-days. It's just 1-a-days now. They're not even allowed to have 2-a-days. We had literal practice, and it didn't matter. There was no limit on how many padded practices we could have.
And even, by the way, even by the softer standards now, Nick Sirianni even airs softer. Like it is the shortest practices I've ever seen in camp. I mean, it's crazy. And look, the one thing I will say is, knock on wood, the Eagles at least did not have a ton of injuries last year, especially compared to what it looked like previous season.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, right. So maybe it works. So they're gonna have joint practices against the Browns and the Dolphins. I love it.
So they're going to be down there, or they're going to be up here?
I think both. I think it's gonna be a mix. I remember the year. I think it was 17, the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Didn't they? Was it the Patriots?
It was the Patriots and Ravens, wasn't it?
And it was great, man. It got pretty heated in a lot of it.
Here's what I love about it. After X amount of days in camp, even though they basically have Sunday school training camps now, your players get tired of banging into each other. The offense knows the defensive calls. The defense knows the offensive calls. You get a fresh set of bodies in there, and there's always going to be some kind of skirmish before it's all said and done.
Especially towards the end of the week, especially later in the week.
Yeah, man.
You've just seen enough of the dude who's across from you, and then it's on.
Yeah, man. That's the best part. I hate to be sadistic about this, but that's the best part. That's better than watching practice.
Amen.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get to hit a guy in another jersey, man. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about this guy being healthy going into the season. You could, tee off on him. So it's a better way to gauge where your team is. Number one. Number two, now you get to see guys, that haven't really performed. You haven't seen before all up through camp, all through the mini camps, OTAs, stuff like that. You're playing against the same guys.
Yep.
Well, now you get to see these selected rookies and see these guys go against somebody who you haven't seen them practice against. You haven't seen them. You don't see what they're going to do. You're going to see if they're going to turn it up. That's what you see with these practices, and it gets hot, man. I love the fact that the first day and the last days are the best practices because that's when you get you get real chippy at the beginning because you're just trying to fill yourself out with the other guys, kind of assert your dominance on the other team. And then the end, all right, I'm tired of hitting everybody. I'm pissed off, and I'm just going to take it out on you before we go to the game. Those when you get the best practices you can get. So remember last year we won a lot of those practices. Remember, he was keeping score.
Undefeated joint practices. Yep. Miami Dolphins of the joint practices, Barrett.
That's gonna be great, man. So I can't wait to see that. I also want to see this Cleveland. I hope they do they play Cleveland here or away? Is that Cleveland?
Hold on. Oh, for the joint practice, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'll find out. I'll find it. Yeah, but
I'd love to come up. I want to see the new quarterback, Watson, in the in the new colors. See how he's, and we still don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, just enjoy him while you can in practice.
Yeah, because he's going to be suspended. Yeah, I think Derek and I touched on it yesterday, Barrett. The league is. It feels like there's some reports that they're getting closer to at least notifying the Browns how long it's going to be. So I can't imagine, Derek. I think you said they'll give him 6 and they'll knock it down to 4 or something like that. That's probably about right. I think they might go 8 and then kick it down to 6.
Yeah.
I
think you have to send a message. So far he hasn't been charged. The accusers are still coming forward, but he hasn't been charged with anything. And, I believe, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe as you read the reports, some women have now backed off of their cases. I believe there was probably settlement somewhere along the line, as is the case with a lot of issues like this. But, the league has set an example. The league takes this stuff like this very seriously. And, and they're going to try to make an example of him to scare other players off or to get other players to step in line and really think before you act and do things you shouldn't do. So I think there's going to be some kind of suspension. To what degree? If he gets an 8-game suspension and it holds, that's going to really hurt Cleveland's season overall because Cleveland has the talent, even without Jarvis Landry, even without Odell Beckham. Cleveland still has a talent to do some damage in the AFC North. But if he's out 8 games, that's really going to hurt their run for that division title.
Well, and they still have that very awkward, strange situation with Baker Mayfield still being on the roster.
Exactly.
And how he's made it clear he wants out of there. He doesn't want to be there. Like if they even try to go to him and say, hey, look, Deshaun's out for 4-6 games, we need you to jump in there. How's that going to be? I mean,
to be honest, Rob, I don't care how many games Deshaun is out. Nobody obviously is going to trade for Baker Mayfield. They're going to sit back and wait. I cut him. You have to cut him. You can't let this go on because it's going to be a daily question.
Soap opera.
Training camp.
No doubt.
Daily distraction. And a coach does not want that as they're trying to get ready for a season. I think it comes down to you just have to cut him and let him go a separate way.
Yeah, I think it's fair, and I think that's actually the way it's going to play out, Gunner. So we'll see. I think right now they're desperately trying to get somebody to take them off their hands, but it's not going to happen. All right, so and Barrett mentioned this in one of our pre-shows that we were doing today, and I think it's a pretty fun exercise here to look at the position battles that the Eagles have, because most years, I mean, let's face it, it's pretty much a lock. The guy who's making the most money, who's been there the longest, is going to be the starter, but there's a few positions that I think are up in the air, or you're just not exactly sure how the parts are going to fit at certain positions, right? So let me ask you guys this. I'm going to jump around a little bit, but offensive line, here's what we know I think are locks for the Eagles. Mailata left tackle, Dickerson left guard, Kelsey at center, Lane Johnson at right tackle. I think right guard's interesting.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Sayamalu, Driscoll, Juergens. How do you see that position, coming to form here?
Oh, I'll let you go first, D-Gun, because this is going to take me a little bit.
I think Sayamalu has the inside track because of experience, but they like this kid Juergens because of his versatility. I think they're going to give him every shot possible to win that job. Now, when Driscoll was in there, he held down the position okay. But I think they're looking for something a little bit different at that position, a little bit stouter at that position. If Juergens is the animal that we think he is from what we've seen on film and what we're told, he's going to be right there. Eventually, when he gets the system down and the calls down, he's going to be right there with Sayamalu. Sayamalu is a road grader. He moves people off the ball. He's a big boy. No question about it. So that I'm torn. I said it a few weeks ago or last week that I thought Juergens had the inside track. But as I look at it now, if Sayamalu is healthy, I think Sayamalu has the inside track first, and then Juergens.
What do you think, Bear?
I think it's going to be a 3-way race.
Okay.
Well, actually almost 4, because just like you say, Cam Juergens is a second-round pick, so they're going to give him every opportunity to at least try to fight and at least get some quality reps. I do think Isaac Sayamalu is the front runner. He's going to start just because he's the elder statesman of the group. He was a starter before he got hurt, and they kind of think they owe it to him to come in as a starter and and have somebody beat this guy out. But Jake Driscoll and LaRaven Clark, I mean, LaRaven Clark is an outlier that people aren't talking about. But LaRaven Clark, I mean, not LaRaven Clark, but Coyote Owosika.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Coyote Owosika is somebody that nobody's talking about that is good. LaRaven Clark is somebody that got from Indianapolis they think is good. So we're talking about quality depth. But Coyote Owosika and LaRaven Clark are two guys that they picked up last year that they really, really like and are going to give them an opportunity to play. I know everybody was saying, you know, that what's the guy's name came in? You in fact, you kind of liked him, D-Gun. What was his name? The guard that came in, Sue Opeda.
Opeda.
Opeda. Yeah.
I think Opeda, his time in Eagles Green is over with because of these dudes.
They have him second on the depth chart right now behind Landon Dickerson. Now you can't always go by that, but that's interesting.
But Coyote Owosika,
good work with the name, by the way.
Yeah, is a great backup right now, and I see him as a guy that could really start. He's not really the road grader, but as far as pass blocking, he's the better of the pass blockers out of all the guys we just talked about. He's the best pass blocker out of the guys we talk about. As far as the overall game, you got to give it to Isaac Seumalo right now. You look at Cam Jurgensen, he's just so young that you can't think he's going to come in and play right now, although he has athletic to do it. And they do love LaRaven Clark, you know, his ability to play tackle and guard. And plus he comes from Indianapolis, and they like him from Indianapolis. They took him from Indianapolis. So those three guys, well, four guys, can really help themselves in camp. And I see them, you know, I see them letting a lot of guys go. That's why I'm really comfortable right now with Andre Dillard being a trade piece and somebody's going to try to come and get him, and they're going to get top dollar for him too. They're going to get a high draft pick. Everybody said, oh, well, he's not going to get a first. I think they can possibly get a second or third rounder for this kid going into camp when somebody loses their left tackle. He can come in and play. He can come in and play and be a perennial, not a perennial Pro Bowler, but he could be damn close to being a perennial left tackle to lock down somebody's left tackle for a long, long time.
All right, I want to jump around. I'm going to go to defense now. All right, and let's go to linebacker because I find this also interesting. They signed Kazir White. All right, that's a given. I think he'll play the weak side. Would you guys agree with that? Okay,
absolutely.
The middle, very much up in the air.
Yes.
TJ Edwards had a pretty solid year, and I think he's a solid player for sure. He's been an upgrade over some of the slop that they've rolled out at linebacker over the years. There's no doubt about that. But Kobe Dean's here now. And then you go to the strong side. Is that where you play Reddick, or do you use him just more on the edge? And if that's the case, who takes that spot? Is it the kid Kyron Johnson out of Kansas? How does the linebacker thing, other than White, play out?
Well, when we talked about the mere fact that, you know, position battles, that's exactly what the position battle I wanted to talk about in the first place, because we don't know what defense they're going to run. It's really up in the air. But unless they run a 30 front, a 3-down lineman front,
which isn't totally out of the question, by the way, right?
Well, I think that they can do it, and at the drop of a dime, it could be possibly their base defense when I look at it. Because you could send so many people. I mean, it'll look like a blitz, but it's not a blitz because they'll send that fourth defender. And that's where you're going to get, you know, Hassan Reddick out there, Patrick Johnson, and, you know, guys like that. You know, the kid from Kansas, you know, that's when those guys will come in and play, the Kyron Johnsons. That's when they'll come in and play. That's when you can have three linebackers on the field, and you can have your best players. When they're in their base front, which is right now 4-2,
right,
because everybody uses 11 personnel, which is one running back and one tight end, the rest receivers. That's three receivers. Their nickel front, which is their base front, they only have two linebackers on the field. They run a big nickel with that third safety. So when you look at it, who are the linebackers you're going to put at the two linebacker positions? You know what I mean? I know you can put Hassan Reddick probably as that fourth guy to come in as a rusher / defensive end. But at the two linebackers, there is so much versatility that you can have at the linebacker position. I mean, just like you said, Nakobe Dean. But I think he's so far a guy that he's going to have to work his way up because they love Davion Taylor and his speed and the way he kind of, came on last season. Of course, TJ Edwards is going to be a guy that's going to be in on first, second down because he's a run stopper. He has the best discipline as far as the linebackers, as far as being a talent that, he lives at the linebacker position. He understands how to play the linebacker. He feels when he's supposed to feel. He reads plays a lot better than the rest of the other guys. I think he's more mature as the linebacker in the middle than anybody else. Then I think Kasir White is that second linebacker in that 4-2 front. He's a guy that, that's why they brought him in. Him to be that will linebacker that can go out and cover if he has to, but he's going to be the guy that can, make plays as far as the package where they're going to blitz TJ Edwards, and he's going to have to be in the middle and to solidify the middle. But it's going to be tough for them to get a lot of these guys on the field unless they go to a 30 front. And this is why I'm thinking they're going to go to a 30 front. Because why would you draft and bring in guys? You drafted Kyron Johnson, but then you bring in Hassan Reddick. All these guys are stand-up type of linebackers that on a line of scrimmage, and not really guys that play from depth. From 4 yards back. I don't see them as those type of linebackers. I see them as rush linebackers that are in a basically a 30 front, or you would have to say you could call it a 50 front also when you have 5 down linemen. I mean, you have 3 down linemen, 2 linebackers on the outside, and 2 linebackers on the inside.
How do you see it? How do you see it, Connor?
I think you stand up Hassan Reddick on the outside. This man had 23.5 sacks over the last 2 years. I think you stand him up on the outside and let him attack from a standing position to gain that advantage against that offensive tackle. When it comes to, I'm not so sure that TJ Edwards is he may start the season, but I don't know if he's going to finish the season as a starter. Once Nakobe Dean gets up to speed, once Kasir White gets this system down, I can see Kasir and Nakobe Dean as interchangeable parts. I think they're going to take Nakobe Dean and move him around and let him try to find the hole in the picket fence. His strength is being able to get up under these big offensive linemen and doing damage. I can see him playing the will sometime and playing the Mike as well. I don't think he's going to have just one defined position, and I don't think Kasir White is either, which I think also makes the defense a little bit more unpredictable. This is not a knock against TJ Edwards. When I watched TJ Edwards play at Wisconsin, the one thing TJ Edwards did extremely well, he was never the fastest linebacker, sideline to sideline, but he was a run stuffer. So I do think on obvious running downs, if there is such a thing left in the National Football League, TJ Edwards is going to be in there for the rundowns. But when it comes to attacking a quarterback and being disruptive, I think you need to have a Nakobe Dean on the field. If he's healthy coming out of the gate, you need to get him on the field and let him be that kamikaze pilot, that guy that can find a way to get in, whether it's coming off the edge, whether it's coming out that seam between the tackle and the guard, whether you put him in the middle. If you got a big tackle, it's going to command 2 people in the center, let him slide off that D tackle one way or the other, find a seam and come right up the middle, because there's not many quarterbacks other than a Lamar Jackson when he takes off is going to outrun a Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean is like a cheetah. I always talk about cheetahs chasing gazelles. Nakobe Dean is that cheetah. He's going to track down 97% of quarterbacks who try to take off to the outside. And if Jonathan Gannon is smart, you play to these guys' strengths every time. You is unpredictable every time you line up from the opening snap of the season to the last snap of the season. I don't care what your record is at that point, but you stay unpredictable every week of the season.
Like it. All right. So when we come back a little later, we got Ben Davis coming up next. Talk some Phils at 1:30. We'll dig into the safety position, the corner position, D-line, wide receiver, and running back. We will hit every single one of those coming up at 1:30. But when we come back, they are hot. They are certifiably hot. They had a big-time road trip out west, and they are back home tonight to take on the Padres. We'll talk to the man who not only gets it done in the booth, but also in the studio as well. Ben Davis joins us from NBC Sports Philadelphia. When we come back, he is D Gun. He is Barrett Brooks. I am Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network.